Hello, everyone. I'm Linda Pratt, and I'm back with a special episode of our series Ask with Holyoke Media. Today, we are talking with two folks that we have talked with previously, but they are working together on some future planning for the city of Holyoke. So I have Vega and from the Office of Planning and Economic Development, and Alicia Zoeller from the Office for Community Development. And we will be talking today about some opportunities for the public to give input to the city on what people would like to see for the future of Holyoke. So I will go ahead and turn it over. Alicia, we'll start with you. If you could talk about the plan that your department has.
Absolutely. So good day, everyone. Thrilled to be here. The Office for Community Development is currently working on our consolidated plan. Our consolidated plan is a 5-year plan that we do that takes a look at all of the data in the city of Holyoke, how many homeowners we currently have, how many renters we have, what are our demographics right now of the city, and we submit that 5-year report to HUD, the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, and that enables us to plan our federal resources that will be coming to the city over the next 5 years. For the first time ever, the Office for Community Development is partnering with our colleagues in the Office of Planning and Economic Development because they too are undertaking a pretty significant planning process, although it is a little different from ours.
Okay, Aaron, you want to talk about your plan?
Sure, and I think it is important to really just think about, these are just really opportunities for people to engage with the city, to think about the future of the city. And so, whether it's confusion over our different offices' names, which are very similar, the world of acronyms that we live in, both federal and state and local, the door is open here, and that's what I think the biggest thing we want to talk about. We're involved in right now what's called the Comprehensive Master Plan for the city. And this is actually a document that will give guidance for the city for the next 20 years. Not so much related to funding, but related to what we want to see when it comes to economic development. What kind of businesses should we be attracting? What kind of housing should we be talking about? Are there zoning aspects that maybe are prohibiting or stifling development? And again, not that we expect people to come in and be experts in zoning, because, I'm barely an expert in zoning. Thankfully, I have someone on staff that's an expert in zoning. What they want to see with open spaces. And really, the biggest thing about this master plan, the Comprehensive Master Plan program, is we're looking at the city with an eye on municipal vulnerability, i.e. climate change. Right? How is this city, along with other cities, preparing ourselves for the future, not just economically and for housing, for open spaces, but all those things with the lens of what's the climate future and what should we be thinking about when it comes to technology, housing, and being prepared for the changing climate that is already happening around us now.
Let's talk a little bit about why you two decided to work together on this, because you have two different plans, but there must be overlap.
So there is some overlap. My plan is responsible for funding the initiatives that will come from Aaron's plan. So that's the simplest way to say this, is that my plan is important because it will bring the dollars and the resources to the city of Holyoke that will implement Aaron's plan. My plan is 5 years, but that 5 years of funding will bring between $5 and $8 million to the city, which will then help drive any of the initiatives that come from Aaron's plan. In terms of why we're working cooperatively, which is, I'm proud to say, one of the first times ever we've done this, people don't care when they come to a room or they call us or they submit an email, whether their thoughts, feelings, needs, priorities go towards my plan or Aaron's plan. That's not what it's about. If someone needs a home, or needs a new roof, or needs some job training, they don't care whether they say it to me or to Aaron, or whether it shows up in my particular document or Aaron's document. People want to be heard. And so this is a way for folks to come in the room, tell us what they're thinking, share their thoughts, and then we can take the information and plug it into whatever report, probably both, whatever plan it's going to fit. It's also a way to consolidate this process so that we're not asking folks to come to a consolidated plan meeting, come to a comprehensive plan meeting, come to a listening session on housing, come to a listening session on economic development. That by sharing these resources, we can get folks in the room all at once.
Yeah, perfectly said. And I think the other aspect was that we were able to, through our plan, bring in consultants. So community engagement, we try to do the best we can, both of our offices. But we were able to bring in people that are now on the streets, going to the festivals, going door to door, going to the grocery store, meeting people where they're at. Yes. They're able to bring now both of our information, whether it be a survey, that we're both going to glean data from. So we were saying, hey, we've got these people now on the streets that are going to be at these events, that's going to be gathering this data. Let's just couple this together, right? And so we would much rather get people engaged to hear what's on their minds, what's going on in their neighborhood, what's going on in the city, their ideas for the future. What are they hearing about? Are they hearing about some of the economic advancements we're doing with Sublime and Clean Crop? Or are we just in a vacuum that they're not hearing about that stuff, right? Do they want to know what our thoughts are for the future of Montauk property? Do they want to know our plans for the future of Main Street and High Street? We're hoping they do. So again, they come to us, talk about those things. We'll figure out which plan it goes to. It's really creating that door and that room for people to come to.
I know you have already had one of your listening sessions. What are some of the opportunities that are coming up, and what happens with that information that the public gives you? As a member of the public, I wonder that sometimes. I give my input, and then where does it go?
Great question. So we did have our first listening session at the Holyoke High School. We have two more, particularly October 26th at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Again, another idea that Alicia came up with and brought to the table was sometimes what they did with their planning was to have a weekend time, where we were trying to get different times of the day, different days of the week to get people. And we thought, well, let's put it somewhere where families are already coming. That's where people already like to come. The merry-go-round, the Children's Museum, the Heritage State Park. We can be outside. Hopefully the weather's be nice. And so that session is going to be more like a tabling event. So if you came to the first session, great. You can go to these other tables and dig in on zoning, dig in on housing, dig in on economic development. If it's the first one you're coming to, come to the first table. It's going to give you an overview of what's going on, a condensed version of the presentation, and then you can go forward. There'll be snacks, there'll be free merry-go-round rides, all that kind of stuff to kind of get people there. The data then becomes something that goes into our reports. And so if one were to look at, and as anyone's interested, it's online, it's a massive one, the urban renewal plan, which was done 10 odd years ago, the 20-plus-year-old urban renewal plan, the comprehensive plan is online. Those things, your voices are in there. The different ideas, they're in there. Those documents, maybe we put them online. Can we do a better job maybe with Holyoke Media and with you getting it out to the public once they're published? Absolutely. But those voices are in there. And when you look back 20 years ago to the plan that was the comprehensive plan of 20 years ago, there are things in there that we've achieved. And so sometimes, we can sit in our rooms and our offices because there's so many things that take so long, and we think, what did we actually achieve? Have we got anything done? When you look back, we've gotten a lot done, but the world's changed a lot in 20 years, and so it's time to relook at that plan.
I think from our plan's perspective, we submit our plan to HUD, and HUD's expectation is that if we have 40,000 people in our community, which we do, we need to figure out a way to hear from as many of those 40,000 residents. That's what's so critical, is not only residents, but business owners and other folks that may have an interest here in the city. And so when we're doing this public engagement work, we're trying to figure out ways so that every single resident of the city of Holyoke has some opportunity to participate. And so one of the things that my office has done is we're not just partnering with Aaron to do these listening sessions, but there's also survey work that's being done. There's social media posts that are being done. We have a open public comment period that if you don't want to come to City Hall, all you have to do is pick up the phone and call me. I will record your name, your address, and what your comments are. It's as simple as that. And so we hope that through all of the different efforts that we're doing, that we're able to touch 40,000 residents. HUD expects that the information that we provide to them is incredibly granular. So for every listening session, I report to HUD how many folks were in attendance, what did we hear. From our surveys, how many folks answered the surveys? Who are they? Are we getting a cross-section of the community, or are we hearing from the same folks over and over again? Have we heard from veterans and homeless folks, people with lived experience around opioid use disorder? Are we making sure that we're hitting all of the segments of our residents? So when you open my report, the draft will be available for public comment in early spring. It goes out for a 30-day public comment period. If you were at a public meeting and you stood up and you said you wanted statues of pink rhinoceroses along the riverfront, then you will see that comment somewhere in the plan. I can't promise you that we will fund that activity, but that comment will have been captured and included in our documents.
Can you give us your phone number so that we can put it on the screen for people?
So it's 413-322-5610. They can reach us through Facebook at Holyoke OCD. They can email us. If you go to the city's website, www.holyoke.org, you can email Aaron or I, any one of our staff. In the subject line, just put public comment, and we'll make sure that that gets added.
Aaron, and what about you? What's the best way for people to get a hold of your office?
Definitely email is best. So you can either email OPED, O-P-E-D, Office of Plan and Economic Development at holyoke.org, or email me directly. My last name, first initial, so it's Vega, V-E-G-A, and another A at holyoke.org. And again, I really encourage people to go to the Holyoke website. I mean, there's, it may take a little bit to navigate, but right at the top of it, there's the comprehensive plan page. There's a survey there now. We're going to probably do an updated survey next month with some more questions. But I think it's important to note that, to Alicia's point, if people engage with us a couple months back on the historic and heritage tourism plan, all those comments are in that plan now, right? All those things are now solidified into a plan that we're now using as a guiding tool. That's what these are, as guiding tools to say, okay, people want us to fund these kind of activities. This is what we heard from. They want to see historic tourism happen in Holyoke. They want to highlight some of our history. We look at the urban renewal plan. People saw these areas in the city that needed attention, that was, not going to be fixed by the private sector. The public sector needed to invest in these areas. And so we get these permissions, these tools.
So what I hear you both saying is that you don't want the decisions to be made solely within the confines of your office. You really want to hear from all different kinds of people in Holyoke about what they want for the future of the city.
And legislate, they can't be just us.
No, I mean, in terms of federal funding, the mayor has the final say, but he has the final say after a significant amount of public input. So we have a citizens advisory committee. It goes to the city council. We put it out for public comment on how those dollars are going to be spent, who's applied, that sort of thing. So absolutely.
Are there areas that you are not including in these plans that people won't be giving you, or does it pretty much encompass everything you can think of for the city?
So from my perspective, there is a question so my plan document is done as an online portal with the federal government. So my questions are already preloaded there, and then I have to respond to what the federal government asked me to respond to. And one of the questions that I have to answer is, are there any comments that you received that you have not included in this plan, and why? And my goal is always, we have accepted and considered all comments.
From our perspective, I think we're still in the conversation part. So if you take the first listening session, it was great to have some young people there, and they brought up the trash and the homelessness issues, the unsheltered individual issues we're having throughout the city. The mayor and I were happy, and Alicia, we all talked about those issues. That's not going to be in the comprehensive master plan. We're going to talk about the need for more affordable housing, more market rate housing, more housing in general, the ability to use some examples like wind development, that we're in a position to rehab old mill places and turn them into residential. So that can be talked about. We're not going to have a plan to deal with the trash in the street. We're trying to deal with that every day, right? But we loved hearing that question. There was another question that's come up, and even came up online, some of the Facebook comments when I posted the meeting. People want to talk again about HG&E providing internet service. Mm-hmm. Probably not going to be in the master plan, but we're taking in that note. We're looping in HG&E and saying, hey, this is still something we want to talk about. Maybe it makes it into the master plan, but I can't guarantee exactly where that, it might be.
It's in mind, because that's a question that I have to answer.
Exactly, yeah.
So I tend to be more of the, Aaron's work is, correct me if I'm wrong, is more around the physical hard structures of the city, and mine tends to be more around the social and social implications.
Oh, well, that's a good way to talk about
trash and unsheltered individuals is certainly heavier in mine. Housing, economic development are all portions, but when I'm looking at my assessments, we're looking at things like trash and blight and unsheltered individuals and services that may be needed. So I think that's a great split. You tend to be more of the built environment, and I tend to be more of the social environment.
Great.
But they overlap. If you think about that Venn diagram, that's why my office is, now again, we don't have funding for housing. Whenever we talk to a developer, we bring Alicia to the table if they want to look into that low income affordable realm. But almost all the projects in front of me that are economic development have a housing element, mixed use. So
we definitely
can't improve our social conditions unless we have the housing in the built environment. So
before we wrap up, is there anything else you really want people to know about the opportunities that are coming up?
I would say make sure you're checking out the cards around town on social media. Definitely go to the website. Again, October 26th, Saturday. It'll be a fun event. There'll be a number of tables with both city staff and our consulting team there. I think it'll be a really great way to engage with people and get the pulse of what's going on. So we really want people to come out.
And in terms of getting folks out, we want them to know that if there's any language translation issues, we do have translators in Spanish that are available. If folks are watching and having this translated into another language and would like to participate in Haitian Creole or another language here in the city, please let us know. We can make those accommodations. And if someone's watching or listening and needs accessibility accommodations, we're happy to make sure that this is open and available and we're meeting people's needs. Just let us know in advance.
Right.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for talking with me today.
Thank you, Linda.
I wish you luck as we go forward, and I hope you get a lot of good input from citizens.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.